Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
And this is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
Hey, Beth. How are you?
Hey, Christy. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just so glad to see your face and hear your voice.
Same. And I am also very excited. We were just talking about this to get back on track.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Normal episodes, normal, air quote, normal.
Right.
And just you and me in our closet talking about the crazies.
Talking about the normal crazies.
And I'm a year older.
Yes.
So I feel like I have so much wisdom to bring to this.
It's true. It happens like that.
It does. It really does. And it is election season.
Yeah, people, tomorrow.
November. So please get out and vote.
Yes.
Let your voice be heard. I early voted in North Carolina. Posted a picture on our social media if you caught that.
I will be going funny first thing in the morning because we don't have early voting here. So
you have to go on election day?
Unless you do, I think, absentee. Mail in, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't have early voting, which I kind of was bummed about. But I'll just get up first thing tomorrow and go.
Yeah, it was really quick for me. I was only there for like 20 minutes, and it was extremely sterile. It was probably one of the most sterile experiences that I have had in 2020.
You get to keep your pen, right?
Yes, they gave me a pen. When you walk in the door, they gave me a pen in paper, in like wrap.
Oh.
So I had to actually open the pen myself.
Kind of like at the pedicure place when they rip open the...
Yes, exactly like that. But they don't open it for you. You have to open it yourself. And then you go in. And it's just plexiglass heaven. If you ever wondered where all the plexiglass was, it's at the poll stations. And they have it was in a gym where I went to, and they had those little dots. And everyone had to stand on the dot. And I was like, I truly feel like I'm in PE class in elementary. Like, stand on your spot. If you're on your spot, okay, move to the next spot. And everyone's just standing on their little circle and holding their pre-wrapped pen. But yeah, it was good. I was definitely glad to see all the people out, and it is, it's an honor to go vote. So go do it.
Yes. Get out there, people.
Have your voice. Yep. We support it.
For sure. So, you ready to just get right into this one?
I am. I want to hear what you have for me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to tell it, actually. Because I've been interested in this one for a little bit. I've heard a couple things about it, but and have read about her a lot. So I'm excited to tell it. So.
A lady.
All right. Here we go. This week, I chose to check into Belle Gunness. And I think, besides me mentioning her during Serial Killer Week, because I think I did mention her to you, like when we were like just chatting about who to do, and maybe possibly on lists that you've seen. Like, is that the extent of your knowledge?
I have seen her on serial killer lists, and my jaw is dropped to think that you may have actually done it again. And
I will say this one's a little bit easier to delve into than those other ones were, and a little bit easier to condense into a normal episode for us. So, but anyway, I heard about her years ago, and she's just fascinated. So, she's fascinating. Sorry. And this is an old one because Belle Gunness was born on November 11th, 1859.
So she's a Scorpio too.
Yes.
Ooh, can I just tell you though, real quickly, side note, I did read something or heard something the other day that was saying, it was talking about how there are not very many female serial killers, but like 80% of all female serial killers are Scorpios. What? I'm not kidding. I really did. And I was like,
only you would find that information.
It is so interesting to me. Like, I get it. We got some fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just wait till you find out about this one.
Okay.
So she was born in 1859 in Selbu, Norway. Her birth name was, this is a mouthful, Brynhild Paulsdottir Storseth, if I said any of that right.
Of course, that was her name.
Yeah. She was the youngest of 8 children to Paul Peterson Storseth and Berit Allstatter. So basically, it seemed like her name was like combinations of all of those together.
It was just basically every syllable imaginable, all put together in one name.
Yes. So she was raised on a farm and grew up to be a physically strong woman. She was reported to be about 5'9" and about 200 pounds. Some say 250 by the time she died, but I don't know. I don't really know if there's record of this. When she was 18, she became a servant farmer, which back during this time were just people who lived on farms and they paid their rent by working on the farm, like a tenant farmer.
Okay.
In 1881, at the age of 22, she followed her sister and emigrated to the U.S.
That was 100 years before I was born.
Oh, look at that. Didn't even put it together.
100 years ago. 139 years ago now.
Yes. She then changed her name to Belle Peterson. I don't know where she got the Belle from, but Peterson, clearly her dad was Paul Peterson. Anyway, Belle Peterson, and moved to Chicago, Illinois, and worked as a servant there for a short time as well. She soon met Mads Albert Sorensen, and the two were married in 1884. They had 4 children, Caroline, Axel, Myrtle, and Lucy.
Axel?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That made a comeback, didn't it?
Yeah, right. She was like they were like the pioneers, I think.
Wow.
And so according to a 1900 census, the family was recorded to also have an adoptive daughter. Daughter? Did you hear that?
I heard that, daughter.
Okay. They had an adoptive daughter named Morgan, but later would be called Jenny Olson. But that is pretty much all that is like known of her at all. Belle and Albert, so he went by his middle name. Mads, I guess, didn't flow well. I don't know. Mads seems like a really weird name, but
the names.
Yeah, I know. Keep them straight. Belle and Albert opened a candy store 2 years after being married, but it wasn't extremely successful. And not long after they opened, their house and the store burned to the ground, and they used the insurance money they received to buy a new home for themselves. In another bout of bad luck, 2 of their children, Caroline and Axel, died as infants from acute colitis.
Oh.
Yeah, it's basically like something to do with their stomach. Yeah. Both children had life insurance policies, which Belle and Albert collected. So, yeah, I was just going to say, if you're like me, there's a little bit of suspicion here. Because all of these insurance policies are being cashed in on. Well, here's another one for you. On July 30th, 1900, Albert Sorensen suddenly died. His doctor had been treating him for an enlarged heart and determined the cause of death was heart failure. And what do you think Belle got after his death?
An insurance policy.
Insurance money,
and
you guessed.
Some baked goods.
Exactly. So yes, there was an insurance policy. But the interesting part about this one is that there were 2 policies on Albert. One was expiring the day that he died, and the other one was starting the day he died. So
okay, Belle.
Overlapped. And he happens to die on the one day that they overlapped. They must not allow this to happen anymore. Is that why they now end at midnight and the other one starts at 12:01?
I definitely don't know the ins and outs of life insurance policies, but
I do feel like insurance policies in general, like say they end at midnight or like 11:59 and the other one starts at 12 or whatever.
There's no cheating the system. Thanks, Belle.
Yeah, good job, Belle.
Really paving the way for all the Scorpio women out here.
Mm-hmm. Mental note, ladies, but this, And we don't think this is the case anymore. But anyway, she received a total of $8,500, which today would be about $250,000. So
not too
quite a bit of
shabby.
money. Yeah. She used this money to buy a farm in LaPorte, Indiana. And this is only about 70 miles from where she was in Illinois. Excuse me. So before making the move to LaPorte, Belle met a fellow Norwegian who had recently been widowed named Peter Gunness.
Oh, okay.
He was a butcher by trade. Belle and he married in LaPorte on April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Who does that?
Was April Fool's Day a thing
I
back
just
then?
was going to say that. I don't know. Maybe she's why it is.
Maybe, because the fool is Peter Gunness.
Noted.
So April 1st, 1902. Peter had 2 daughters at the time, and a week after the wedding, his infant daughter died of unknown causes.
Oh, no.
A mere 8 months later, Peter met a similar fate to those that came before him. He had a tragic accident in the kitchen. He was getting something off of a shelf, and a meat grinder toppled off the shelf and hit him on the head.
Stop it.
The butcher was killed by a meat grinder.
Stop it.
So an investigation was opened, clearly, but there was never any charges filed. And a year after that, Peter's brother moved to Wisconsin and took Peter's oldest daughter with him. And thank goodness, because I'm not sure that she would have survived living with Belle if he had left her with him, with Belle. But again, Belle received another $3,000 for Peter's death, which is close to about $90,000 today.
Was the meat grinder on?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just sitting on the shelf.
So it was like blunt force to the head that killed him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is clearly what Belle is stating what happened.
Got it.
Is that what happened? We don't really know. The people in the town would not accept that Peter could have been that clumsy because they had known him for years. He was an experienced butcher in town. And not to mention one of Belle's own children, I believe Jenny Olson, told a classmate that Belle had hit Peter with a meat cleaver.
Oh my gosh.
So the coroner decided to review the case, hearing all of these murmurs around things, and announced that it was a murder, which then led to the coroner's jury, which this is all like weird things that happen. I guess the coroner would decide whether it was murder, and then a coroner jury would be established to decide if this was actually the case.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's weird. Somehow Belle managed to convince this jury that she had done nothing wrong, and she was cleared. In May of 1903, she gave birth to a son named Philip. Apparently, she had been pregnant this entire time with Peter's child and didn't even tell anybody at the time. So she didn't use it as an excuse. Why would I kill my husband? I'm pregnant. She just all of a sudden gave birth. She's a big woman, so I imagine she hid it.
Oh my heavens.
In 1907, Belle hired a farmhand named Ray Lamphere, or Lampier. I don't know. Lamphere. I would say Lampier.
Mm-hmm.
There were rumors that Ray became more than just a farmhand to Belle, not Bill. I mean, I don't know who Bill is. Ray would get drunk and brag about sleeping with her. The locals had a little bit of a hard time believing that because apparently due to her size and her love of wearing men's overalls, it was hard to see Belle in that kind of light that she would just like jump in the sack with her farmhand.
I see. I might have a very clear picture of her in her overalls or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
After a while, Ray was just not enough for Belle, and she decided to take a personal ad out in a few Midwest newspapers. And they were, I believe, Norwegian newspapers, and that possibly the ad was in Norwegian. But it read as follows. comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte County, Indiana, desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided with view of joining fortunes. No
Oh my
replies.
gosh.
No replies by letter considered unless sender is willing to follow answer with a personal visit. Triflers need not apply. No
Okay.
triflers. Ain't no scrubs.
Don't be trying. Okay. So I just looked up what comely means.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
I'm just assuming that the definition of comely was Belle Gunness.
It is definitely not.
Oh, really?
Comely means pleasurably conforming to notions of good appearance, suitability, or proportion, having a pleasing appearance, not homely or plain.
Oh, see, I was like making it like homely. That's what I was thinking when I heard comely.
It's the opposite of that.
Oh, well, you
Not
guys,
homely or plain.
there will be pictures posted of this comely woman. You can be the judge.
In her overalls with her meat.
Although I have not,
meat
I will
cleaver.
say, I have not seen any pictures of her in overalls, but I didn't specifically look for them. But she typically has this like dress on when I see pictures of her. But anyway, it's reported that shortly after placing these ads, Belle would be seen with different men riding through town in a horse and buggy in her best clothes, and her hair did. And she would tell the locals that these men were cousins coming from out of town to help her around the farm. So they would be there and then they wouldn't. So it was just all these, relatives come and help out every now and then. John Moe was one of them. He came from Minnesota and carried $1,000 to pay off Belle's mortgage for her. And he wasn't seen after a week of being there.
Did they ever confirm that any of these men were actually her cousins?
No, they were not her cousins.
Oh, so she was a hoe.
Yeah, and I don't think she wanted to be seen in that light, so she was just telling them, "Oh, these are cousins of mine coming." Plus, then it would
I don't know what's worse.
Then it would be easier to explain that they left because, they were just family members coming to visit for a short time, and now they're not here anymore.
Oh my goodness!
Comely
Belle.
Yes, once we realize what she really has done. Another one of these men was George Anderson from Missouri. He came and said he would pay off her mortgage too if they decided to wed after he came to meet her. He awoke in the middle of the night to Belle standing over him, looking at him in a sinister way. He screamed. Yeah. Nope. He screamed and she immediately ran out of the room. And he was so convinced that she was going to harm or murder him that he jumped out of bed, got dressed, and ran out of the house and left all of his belongings and never even came back for them. Just got up, took the first train back to Missouri.
Good.
Another man came from Wisconsin. He had mortgaged his land at a bank in LaPorte in April of 1907, and his children had no idea where he was, but soon discovered that he was at Belle's farm was his destination. And they wrote to Belle asking where their father was, but she wrote back saying she had never seen him. So he moved from Wisconsin, mortgages his farm in LaPorte where she is, but basically, and then it just disappears. And she says he never.
I tell you what, ladies, you need to reread that personal ad because it apparently had effect on men.
Yeah. And it was just the letters just kept on rolling.
Wow.
And, yes. Apparently, I don't know if men back then were desperate.
Well, they were like, no scrubs. I'm not a scrub.
Triflers need not apply.
She's comely. Come on.
She is comely. I'm going to start using that word to describe myself. Okay. This happened many times with many different men throughout the year of 1907. In December of 1907, Andrew Helgeline, who was from South Dakota, exchanged several letters with Belle after responding to her ad in the papers. In January of 1908, Belle wrote Andrew this letter, and he promptly left South Dakota to be with her. I'm so glad that we have some of the actual words that they said.
I was going to say, I would die to read these letters.
to the dearest friend in the world. So this is Belle writing to Andrew, and this is what made him just like pick up and go. No woman in the world is happier than I am. I know that you are now to come to me and be my own. I can tell from your letters that you are the man I want. It does not take one long to tell when I'm sorry. This is not
Belle's tripping you up.
Proper English. It does not take one long to tell when to like a person, and you I like better than anyone in the world. I know. Think how we will enjoy each other's company. You, the sweetest man in the whole world. We will be all alone with each other. Can you conceive of anything nicer? I think of you constantly. When I hear your name mentioned, and this is when one of the dear children speaks of you, or I hear myself humming it with the words of an old love song, it is beautiful music to my ears. My heart beats in wild rapture for you, my Andrew. I love you. Come prepared to stay forever.
Wow.
She knows how to reel it in.
Belle got game.
Belle got game. Andrew, like others before him, brought with him a check for $2,900, and he and Belle deposited the money in the Laporte Bank together. So now, things kind of go a little haywire for Belle. It gets a little messy. So I'll explain how when we come back from this break. So, do you all remember Ray Lampier, right?
Okay.
Remember him, right? The farmhand.
Oh, yeah,
that Belle was sleeping with before all this. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe she was sleeping with him through all this. I don't know. Possibly. Well, he fell in love, or had fallen in love with Belle, and was beginning to get jealous of all of these men. So when he found out Andrew was to be Belle's new husband, he became enraged and threw a fit, essentially, right then and there. So Belle fired him, was like, get off my property, want nothing to do with you anymore, leave. A few short days after that, Andrew was gone, and Belle was in town at the courts trying to convince them that Ray was a bad man and needed to be taken into custody and determined if he was sane. He was determined to be sane. They brought him in, questioned him, had a whole jury or something, and he was determined to be sane and released. And a few days later, she came back and had him arrested for trespassing, because I guess Ray came back to kind of cause another scene to, mad about Andrew, even though Andrew was gone. And she had him arrested for trespassing. So she then went to her lawyer's house or office saying that Ray had been threatening to kill her and her children and burn her house down, and she wanted to make a will in case this happened. She left her entire estate to her children. Meanwhile, Andrew, who now is non-existent in Belle's life, his brother was starting to wonder what had happened to him. And he found that letter that I read just before the break at his brother's house. And he immediately sent an inquiry about his brother. So all of this is all through mail. So you can imagine the time that it takes. Right. Oh, I found this letter. Let me write a letter to Belle. Let me wait for the letter to come back. You were ring a ding ding. Hey, Belle, where's my brother? So he sends a letter. She responds by telling him that he had left and most likely had gone to Norway to see family. But his brother wasn't really convinced that that's something he would do without saying anything. So he kind of kept on Belle. And she said that if he wanted to come down and put a search party together, she was more than willing to help, but that she expected to be compensated for her help.
I was just going to say, P.S. send a check for my mortgage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Help me pay off the mortgage that first guy paid off. John Moe.
It's been paid off 5 times at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. So in February of 1908, Belle hired another farmhand named Joe Maxon. Joe was staying in the same house as Belle and her children, but on a separate side. And on April 28th, 1908, Joe woke up to smoke coming through his window. And at first he thought it was breakfast being cooked, because he was on the second floor above the kitchen. However, when he looked out the window, he saw flames. He tried to run out the door, but it was locked. He yelled, "Fire, fire!" to try and wake everybody else in the house up, but he heard nothing. He didn't hear anybody else clamoring to get out, nothing. He ran down a back set of stairs and tried to use an axe to get into the house to save the others inside, which would be Belle and her 3 small children.
Oh, Joe.
He was unsuccessful, and by the time authorities arrived to the house, it had burned to the ground. Similar to that of the solder story, because things took so long by the time you find a way to get to the fire department and get them there and whatnot. So I'm glad things have changed in those terms.
Right.
So when they finally get into the rubble, they found 4 burnt bodies, 3 children, and one adult woman's body. However, it was headless. Police immediately arrest Ray because clearly she had gone to the lawyer and said, well, he told me he's going to burn my house down and kill all of us. So they immediately arrest Ray, and he keeps insisting, I had nothing to do with this. I wasn't even near the home at the time of the fire. I don't even know what's happening. And they don't find the head of Belle at the scene and assume Ray disposed of it elsewhere, which is just another weird thing. Like, why would you just assume that? I mean, but I guess that's how he killed her and then set fire to the house is what they're assuming, since that's what Belle had said he was planning on doing. When Andrew's brother had seen the news about the fire in the newspaper, he quickly traveled to Indiana in search of answers as to where his brother was. So go Andrew's brother, by the way, and his name is Asle, A-S-L-E. Would you say
Asle?
Is that how you would say that?
Oh my
gosh. The names in this, let me tell you.
I tell you what.
Go Asle.
That's...
People
you were a brave asshole. Okay.
Oh man, we could keep going on that one. I think that
we are way too immature for these things.
Yes, let's rein this one back in. Okay, so Asle immediately ran to Indiana. He went to the sheriff, and they brought him to the house and allowed him to look for evidence of his brother in the rubble. He joined in the search for the head, because that's what they were there searching for, and he was just hoping he would find some sort of sign of his brother. Asle at some point, sorry.
Never not funny.
Okay. At some point, he talked to Joe Maxon, the new farmhand, asking if there had been any holes dug on the property recently. I mean, he's pretty smart. Liz, I hope this Asle was a detective at some point.
Real smart asshole. Smart asshole.
I can't either. Okay, let's try and get through this. Joe mentions that some soft depressions in the fenced-in hog pen, or he mentioned that there were some soft depressions in the fenced-in hog pen that Belle had asked him to level out, and that she had just told him that she had buried garbage in those areas.
Oh my gosh.
So Asle then asked the investigators to go and dig up those depressions. They quickly hit a layer of trash, and they found a burlap sack, and inside they find 2 feet, 2 hands, and 1 head. Asle immediately recognized the head as his brother Andrew's.
Oh my, she buried them in the hog pen.
Mm-hmm. The men suddenly realized there were dozens of these depressions throughout the yard, and they began pulling body after body out of the yard. Most of the bodies were found quartered and chopped up into pieces. Others had traces of strychnine, which is basically used as rat poison, in them. And as news of this spread, stories started coming in about missing men that may have answered Belle's ad. These are the names of the men that could 100% be identified. Olby Budsberg of Iola, Wisconsin, who vanished in May of 1907. Thomas Linbow, who had left Chicago and had gone to work as a hired man for Gunness 3 years earlier. Henry Gerholt of Scandinavia, Wisconsin, who had gone to wed her a year earlier, taking $1,500. A watch corresponding to the one belonging to him was found with a body. Olaf Svenherud from Chicago.
Good job.
John Moe, who I mentioned earlier. Olaf Lindblom from Wisconsin. Benjamin Carling of Chicago, Illinois, was last seen by his wife in 1907 after telling her he was going to LaPorte to secure an investment with a rich widow. He had with him $1,000 from an insurance company and had borrowed money from several investors as well. In 1908, his widow was able to identify his remains from LaPorte's Paupers Cemetery by the contour of his skull and 3 missing teeth.
Wow. Well, he might have been trifling.
He might have been trifling. There is an even longer list of men that they have not been able to prove were victims of Belle's, but likely they were. And they found remains that equaled around 40 people.
Wow.
One of which was the body of her adopted daughter, Jenny Olson, who
Oh my gosh.
Belle had told neighbors had left for boarding school years earlier. So she was probably not too happy that Jenny had said Mommy hit Peter with a meat cleaver and decided she needed to go. The local town people also did not believe the female body found in the fire was Belle. They believed it to be too small to be her. Belle was 5'9", and the corpse was around 5'3", and Belle was 200 pounds, and this body was closer to about 125. Ray was convicted of arson, but was cleared of murder charges. There had been strychnine found in the stomachs of all 3 of her children. So she poisoned them. This is the story. She poisoned them and started the fire.
And put somebody else in her place and cut the head off so they wouldn't know who it was. Who's the real asshole?
Exactly.
Wow.
And this is the story because while in prison, Ray had apparently confessed that he knew all about what Belle had been doing to the men, which is probably why she started, complaining about him and reporting him to the police. Then when Andrew's brother kept writing to her and asking questions, he kept asking her questions about where he was and whatever. She drained all of her accounts and then made this elaborate plan to escape. Investigators did find that she did take all of the money out of those accounts, almost all of it. There was a small amount left, but most of it was taken out shortly before the fire. And Ray had estimated that she accumulated about $250,000, which would be close to, oh gosh, I think I looked this up and it was like 7 million today.
Whoa.
So, I mean, quite a bit of money for her in that time. She killed her own children and staged her own death. And he claims the body that was found was a girl from Chicago who had come there because she had been promised a housekeeping job with Belle. But that has never been proven. So
they don't know who it was?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
He even claims she fed some of the men's body parts to the hogs that time.
No,
she got lazy. So sightings have been reported of her all the way through 1931. I mean, there's a lot of stories out there since there's this conspiracy that it wasn't her in the fire. I do not believe it was her, 100%. I believe she took that money and ran. And people have said they've saw her in many different places, and they did exhume the body because the headless woman was buried next to her husband. And in 2007, they exhumed the body, hoping that they would, have enough DNA to prove one way or another, but they didn't.
Wait, in 2007?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Because there was family or whatever, they thought they just might, because this is just such an interesting case. And now that they have all this DNA and systems, they thought maybe they'd be able to find a familial link.
Right.
That would prove it wasn't her, but they found nothing. So it's still just
goodness
mystery. Yeah. So there's the story in a nutshell of Belle Gunness. The biggest, I think, female serial killer out there.
I don't have words. I need to know how she got these men. I mean, that was a good letter, but good grief, it wasn't 40 men good.
No. Well, clearly some of them thought they were coming for an investment. So
Right.
I don't know where that one came from because I didn't see, any other ads. Some people probably came for jobs thinking they were going to be working. So there was other ways, but I know a good amount of them were answering that ad.
I also think it's interesting that Mr. Ray was like in love with her and all this stuff, but then said that he knew what she was doing to these men.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how he was proving his love. He was helping her, is part of what people were saying. He's never admitted that, but people on many different sites will say that he was basically probably helping her to dispose of these bodies, and he would just do anything she wanted just because she asked.
What a monster with wildly like infectious ways, as are all of the serial killers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. True.
Where the crap did she go?
I have no idea. I saw a couple of different like where she was thought to be seen. And there was one, and I don't remember. I probably should have written this down because it would have been interesting to actually look more further into. But that was one lady that got arrested in like 1931 and died in jail.
And they thought it might be her?
Yeah, that was the last one I think that they thought was her.
And she killed her children. Like
her children, all of them.
No.
Well, except for the one that was, what's his name's, years ago. That went with uncle.
The uncle took.
Yeah. It's the only one. And that wasn't even her kid. Like that was stepkid. But anyway, terrible, 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 terrible woman. Fascinating woman, actually.
I have so many questions for her. For that Belle. Okay. I liked that story. And all the names. Especially Assel.
Assel's my favorite, and he was the best. He was the best character in the entire story.
He was literally so like the heroine of all of them. The asshole wins the day.
Very, very true.
May we all be assholes.
I'm going to go stop now.
I can literally go all day. Okay. Okay, that was a great story. Thank you for bringing another serial killer back into the mix.
You're welcome.
I
just
really
couldn't give up on him yet.
I know. That story definitely needed to be told. That's really interesting. I'm excited to see pictures of this comely woman. Yeah. They're good, are they?
She's a beaut. She's a beaut.
250 pounds of her. Can't hate it. Okay, well, if you liked it as much as I did, come tell us about it and find us on all the platforms. Thank you guys so much for the ratings that I got for my birthday. I did not hate that. That was awesome. So keep those coming. We really liked them. We're on everything, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website. We've got email. You can send us a voicemail, do all that. Keep in touch with us. Send us some case suggestions. Go vote.
Yes.
Get out there with us. And we definitely will ride the rest of 2020 out with you. And remember, the world is scary. People suck. Hide in your closet. You know,